Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel all about literature. Your go-to space for all things. In today's video, we are exploring the fascinating world of poetry forms. Whether you are a student, teacher, or just a lover of words, this is your complete guide to understand how poets shape their art. So grab a notebook and maybe a cup of tea and let's dive in. So, the first and the very main question is, what is poetry? Poetry is more than just a rhyming word. Poetry is a powerful form of expression, language distilled to its emotional, musical, and imaginative essence. It uses rhythm, meter, sound, and metaphor to evoke the feelings and ideas. So now let's explore how poets organize their art through forms. So these are the forms we are going to discuss in this video further. Before discussing what is poetry and what are its various forms, we we all have read many type of and many kind of poetry, and also in many ways and in many emotional terms we have also tried to write some kind of poetries and like shairis in our life at least once. So the first form of poetry is the sonnet. Let's begin with one of the most iconic form, the sonnet. A sonnet is a 14-line poem traditionally written in iambic pentameter. There are two main types, the Petrarchan or Italian sonnet or the Shakespearean or English sonnet. The Petrarchan splits into 8-line octave and a 6-line sestet, while the Shakespearean sonnet uses 3 quatrains and a final couplet with the rhyme scheme of AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, and GG. One of the most famous sonnet is Shakespeare's Sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? We must have heard about this sonnet, right? The second is Villanelle. Next, the villanelle. This is 19-line form consists of 5 3-line stanzas followed by a 4-line stanza. Its defining feature is repetition. Lines 1 and 3 of the first stanza are alternately repeated throughout. It creates a haunting echo effect. And a great example of this kind of poetry is Dylan Thomas' Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night. It refrains hammer home and urgency and the emotion of the poem, right? So the next term is the haiku. Haiku is a traditionally Japanese type kind of poetry, and this is a Japanese form especially. Just 3 lines with 5 and 7 and 5 syllable. Despite its brevity, it's captured deep meaning often through nature and seasonal references. And the famous writer of haiku form is Basho. I don't know the exact pronunciation of Basho in Japanese language, but yeah, in English that's Basho. Famous haiku goes like example is an old silent pond, a frog jumps into the pond, splash, since again, simple yet profound. And the next form of poetry is the limerick. The limerick is a 5-line comic verse with the rhyming scheme of A B B A and a bouncy rhythm. It's playful, cheeky, and often a bit silly. Like this classic, there once was a man from Peru who dreamed he was eating in his shoe. He awoke in the night with a terrible fright and found that his dream had come true. And the next and the very beautiful form of poetry is the ballad. The ballad is a narrative poem. It tells a story in short stanzas, usually a quatrains, with an A B C B rhyme scheme, and ballad begins with an oral folk tales and are full of drama, love and tragedy. For example, St. Colbert's poem The Rime of Ancient Mariner is a classic literary ballad form with array, imaginary and more reflections. These are the most famous forms of poetry, and the next forms are some open forms. Open forms like free verse. Free verse. Not all poetry sticks to rigid forms. Free verse abandons rhythm and meters but keeps poetic language and rhythm. And the free verse are this type of poetry is mainly famous in the Romantic era, and it mirrors natural speech, making it powerful for modern and personal expression. Walt Whitman's Song of Myself is the best example of this kind of form. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume, you shall assume. The next form of poetry is prose poetry. Prose poetry looks like a paragraph and read like a poem. It's poetic in language, using metaphor, repetitions, and imagery, but has no line breaks or verse structure. Charles Baudelaire and Rimbaud were earlier pioneered. Today, many contemporary poets use prose poetry for its flexibility. And the next kind of form of poetry is narrative poetry. Narrative poems tell a story complete with characters, plot, and settings. Think of it as a storytelling in verse kind of thing. Epics like the Odyssey or the modern poems like Tennyson's Ulysses falls into this category. And the next form of poetry is lyric poetry. And we have heard about this kind of poetry many times. Lyrics mean lyrics of songs. We have heard about these. In contrast, lyric poetry expresses emotions and thoughts. It's deeply personal, often musical, and doesn't aim to tell a full story. Odes, sonnets, and elegies fall under this form. Like Keats' Ode on a Nightingale, it's not about action but feeling. The next form of poetry is dramatic poetry. Dramatic poetry is written for performance. Think monologues and dialogues in verse. It gives voices to a character, and in English literature, who is most famously known as the father of dramatic poetry. Have you heard about this? And if you know the name, let me tell let me know the name of the writer in the comment section. Robert Browning's My Last Duchess is a dramatic monologue where a noble man reveals his possessive nature through subtle clues. And why does this kind of form matters in our life? Think about it. So if you want to summarize this whole video, this slide is for you. And why the form matters? Why we study poetic form? Because form shape meanings. A rigid structure like a sonnet may mirror internal conflict and restraints. A haiku distills a movement. Free verses opens a window to the soul. When you know the form, you better understand the poet's choices, right? So, thank you for today's video, and if you liked my video, hit the bell icon, subscribe my channel. Thank you.